Good, happy Friday morning, October 23rd, 2020. I'm Riley King, and welcome to the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. We have a lot of news to get to this Friday morning, so let's begin. But first, we begin with COVID-19 updates. Coronavirus in New Hampshire, important information, latest graphs. Let's take a look at that right now. And here is a look at that for all of you right now. There are 9,994 number of people in New Hampshire have tested positive for COVID-19. 8,386,634 number of people in the United States have tested positive. 470 number of deaths from COVID-19 in New Hampshire. 765 number of people have been hospitalized with COVID-19 in New Hampshire, and 766 number of deaths from COVID-19 in the United States. Let's take a look at this map of New Hampshire where current cases of COVID-19 are. In Manchester, 98. Let's take a look at this map of New Hampshire where total cases of COVID-19 are. Manchester, 2316. And now let's take a look at these three charts here. Let's start with the first chart here. New cases each day in New Hampshire in the purple, daily new positive COVID-19 cases. In the orange, new hospitalization, and in the red, deaths. And let's take a look at this chart here. Current cases in the purple, total current COVID-19 cases, and in the orange, current hospitalization. Let's take a look at this chart here. Total cases in the purple, total positive COVID-19 cases, in the orange, total hospitalization, red, deaths, and blue, recovered. And let's take a look at this chart here. Positive PCR test rate and daily PCR test. And let's take a look at this chart here. Age group of cases, female and male of cases, and risk information. And let's take a look at this chart here. Infections, hospitalizations, and deaths. And let's take a look at this chart here. Deaths, percent of New Hampshire population, race/ethnicity of cases, and hospitalizations. And a reminder, your common symptoms: fever, lack of smell, cough, chills, difficult breathing, nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. How it spreads, and prevention tips. And be sure to stay with the Riley King Network for the latest of your COVID-19 information. 82 new COVID-19 cases reported in New Hampshire, though positivity rate remains low. There have been 9,994 known coronavirus cases in New Hampshire, officials say. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9, Jennifer Crompton.
Now's the time to get a great deal on select Kubota compact and subcompact tractors.
As the 10,000 case milestone looms in New Hampshire, experts stress vigilance. The state's two largest cities continue to have substantial community transmission, read by state standards, and a county may soon follow.
Hillsborough County is actually, as a whole, this is Hillsborough County minus the cities of Manchester and Nashua, is actually right on the cusp, I think, of going from moderate to substantial.
The state now doing about 25,000 rapid tests a week for people who are symptomatic at 12 sites and National Guard locations in Concord and Londonderry, with more to follow next week. The governor pointing out that we are in the middle of the 2-week moratorium on hockey and activity in ice rinks, saying it will be important for players, coaches, and parents to get tested because of the inordinate amount of community spread.
Contact tracing has identified it's being passed both in some of the social gatherings that happen before, during, and after games with parents. It has happened player to player, and it is having a domino effect in our schools.
The governor was asked what he would say to Granite staters that may not be taking COVID seriously.
My message to those individuals would be, first and foremost, obviously, they're wrong. COVID is very real. You can if you're not worried about it for yourself, I suppose that is your right to do so, but be worried about it for those you may transmit it to, loved ones, the elderly, whatever it might be.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Like in New Hampshire, Mass moves to close ice rinks, closed for 2 weeks over COVID-19 worries. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
Generations, the award-winning Palmer Gas and Oil has been providing fuel to home.
Believe it is a dangerous precedent that you are setting to participate in New Hampshire youth sports, that you must have a negative COVID test.
I have a feeling that I'm going to get a bunch of parents or several parents that are just going to say, no, I'm not getting my 4-year-old tested.
New Hampshire hockey parents making their opinions known during a state reopening task force call on new guidelines. The sport is currently in a 2-week pause after 8 different hockey-related outbreaks in the state. Officials also said there were cases that then got into schools.
It was that key piece of information that resulted in Governor Sununu making the decision to take a 2-week pause on hockey.
The primary concern from parents is the requirement that rink staff, volunteers, and athletes be tested for COVID-19 before returning to the ice. While parents expressed their dismay, the state's public health department said in the last 2 months, 184 Granite staters diagnosed with COVID participated in hockey, and officials see a need to test everyone involved, including players from other states.
While we appreciate that the testing is a burden, for some, we know that there isn't anything magical about the border of New Hampshire around that.
The task force welcomed the feedback and at the end of the call voted to change the testing requirement to a recommendation.
If they were perfect solutions, believe me, we would immediately embrace them and adopt them. But unfortunately, as has been the case throughout this process, there are no perfect solutions.
So next up, the task force recommendations will go to Governor Sununu. He will look them over with the state's health department. They hope to have something finalized by the beginning of next week. In Manchester, Jessica Marie, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Investigation shows 39 COVID-19 cases linked to Nashua church outbreak. Health director says pastor acted quickly after learning of first case. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9, Kristen Carosa.
For the easy and the complex, the small stuff and the big, we're here with the affordable local loans, easy to manage accounts, and financial advice to help you blaze a trail, figure stuff out, and make your money go farther. We're Granite State Credit Union. Live bold.
The 10-day event at the Gate City Church was held at the end of September, leading to an outbreak of the coronavirus.
It seems like the virus spread because people were singing in the church with no masks on. But those 39 cases have resulted in over 100 contacts that need to be followed. And, so it's been a significant number of new cases and a significant amount of work for public health.
Public Health did contact tracing and followed any reports of cases of COVID-19 that stemmed from the event. The last positive case health officials were made aware of was on October 9th.
And so you can see how an event can carry out, or individuals can continue to expose others if they're not aware that they're positive.
Nashua's public health director says as soon as the pastor of the church was informed that someone tested positive for COVID, he acted fast, which she believes kept the total number of cases down.
His leadership and his response to getting people to quarantine, working together with public health, allowed for us to contain this that really could have been a lot bigger than what it is. Churches, if they come together, mindful of that social distancing in that church, mindful of the mask on the whole time they're in the church. No singing, because that allows for respiratory droplets to spread.
The health director here in Nashua tells us the pastor has chosen to hold church services virtually moving forward. Reporting in Nashua, Kristen Carosa, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Last night, Rep. Custer and challenger Negron face off in final Granite state debate. Custer has held office since winning in 2012. Negron seeking to unseat Custer to rematch. Let's take a listen to this video from WMUR News 9.
Years and 4 generations, the award-winning Palmer Gas and Oil has been providing fuel to homes.
I think it is true that the country has become far too divided.
It's about at every turn throwing rocks at an administration when they're trying to do the right thing.
In the rematch of the last 2nd Congressional District race, 4-term incumbent Democrat Annie Custer and Republican Steve Negron, a veteran and CEO of an engineering firm, remain divided, starting with the handling of the pandemic.
Stay at home, wear a mask, don't do anything. And because of that plan is the situation that we find ourselves in, that we have this mental health issue.
Close to 500 deaths right here in New Hampshire. I agree that people want to get out and about with their life, but this is a highly contagious disease. So testing would make a big, big difference.
They debated their confidence level in a vaccine.
Under a Biden administration, when we are listening to science and following the science, then we will we'll know if it's safe and effective.
My sister actually contracted COVID-19, John. She went through the protocols without the vaccination, and she's perfectly fine now. You know, this vaccination is just like any vaccination. It's my own personal decision.
The candidates also tackled the opioid epidemic, Roe v. Wade, and police training and immunity.
Millions of Americans, including people right here in New Hampshire, watched the murder of George Floyd, and I believe we can do better. And I think police right here in New Hampshire do better every single day.
We don't want what's going to happen in Portland, Kenosha, Wisconsin, or Chicago, right? Not once has Congresswoman Custer, not once, denounced that kind of activity that's out there.
And after the debate, Congresswoman Custer and her challenger Steve Negron continued to make their cases to voters. They each explained what makes the landscape of this campaign different in 2020.
I think that Mr. Negron has tied himself to Mr. Trump's volatility. I talk to constituents all the time who think he's too divisive and just thinks that we need a change and we need a new president in the White House.
I believe the fact that we ran in 18 really kind of primed the pump for this, and that's why I think you see the last University of New Hampshire poll had us within 4 points with a margin error of 4, so we're neck and neck with her. And I think people are ready for a change, and I think that's important for them right now.
If you missed any of our Granite State debates this week, you can watch them on any of our digital platforms.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And 5 key takeaways from the final presidential debate. President Donald Trump and Joe Biden faced off for the final time last night. After the second presidential debate was canceled following President Donald Trump's coronavirus diagnoses, the subsequent hospitalization, both he and Democrat nominee Joe Biden returned to the stage Thursday night for their final opportunity to draw direct contrast with one another before Election Day. For 90 relevantly civil minutes, the pair squared over a range of topics including pandemic, healthcare, election security, immigration, their personal financial entanglements, and climate change, among other things, guided by moderator Kristen Walker of NBC News. The closing arguments arrived, however, on a day in which the number of early votes cast this year epulated the number of early votes total in 2016. With still 12 days to go until Election Day, over 48.5 million Americans have already voted, which leaves a winnowing group of presumable individuals for Trump and Biden to win over. Though there was some doubt about whether the event would take place after Trump repeatedly expressed disfraction with the nonpartisan Commission on Presidential Debates attempt to hold a virtual second debate prior to its eventual cancellation, and later the decision to mute the candidates' microphones during portions of Thursday's discussion, the debate moved forward without a delay and largely absent of the repeated interruptions that happened in the first debate. Here are 5 key takeaways from the final presidential debate. Number 1. Microphone muting and moderation prove effective. Number 2. Biden lays out forward-looking coronavirus plan. Trump religs his past. Number 3. Financial entanglements. Corruption allegations threaten to overshadow issues. Number 4. Biden redirects Trump claim that would better fit a more progressive opponent. And number 5. Candidate offer stark healthcare contrast. And here at the Riley King Network, we had our reporter Jimmy James watching the debate last night, and here is what our reporter Jimmy James said. Trump did great, and Sleepy Joe with some type of amphetamine. That is what our reporter said about the debate last night. And that does it for this morning edition of the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. Thank you for watching this morning edition. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you back here later on today for another newscast. I'll have a news report coming up in a little bit. Goodbye, everyone.